They're already adding users at such a fast pace that I don't think they really need a whole lot of help in adding people. What they need help is in getting more revenue from the people they add, because since it's cheap, their average revenue per user is among the lowest in SVOD.
Hey gang, it's Thursday, March 17th. Ross and listeners, welcome to the Behind the Numbers Daily, the eMarketer podcast made possible by Mountain. I'm Marcus, and today I'm joined by one of our senior analysts who covers TV and video. It's Ross Benish.
Hey, Marcus.
Hey chap, thanks for hanging out. Today's fact, it's about hippos. Why not? A couple of facts for you about hippos. Once believed to be related to the pig family, they're now shown to be more closely related to whales. There are two species of hippo, common and pygmy. They live between 40 to 50 years old, 40 to 50. Third largest land mammal after the Asian and African elephants. They can kill lions, crocodiles, and sharks. So definitely people, but they are vegetarian. So if they did kill something, it would be in self-defense. Speaking of self-defense, their skin is 1.5 inches thick. They're literally bulletproof. They run at 20 miles per hour, but they can clock 30, and they can stay submerged in water for up to 5 minutes. They only have 4 teeth, but their tusks are so sharp that they could sever a limb with a snap of the jaw. I've played Hungry Hippos. I know how it goes down. Ross, did you know that about hippos? Terrifying.
I don't know much about hippos beyond the children's game Hungry Hippos.
Yeah, that's all you really need. Terrifying, but wonderful creatures. Anyway, today's real topic, what's next for streaming video? Ross, today we're talking all about streaming video and some recent developments, some new services coming out. I want to get your reaction to those, how you think those will perform, and then we'll talk a bit about price ceilings and bundling services, and then we'll have the halftime report as per usual, and then finish with a couple of other news stories. But let's start with CNN Plus. CNN's new streaming service, CNN Plus, will launch on March 29th. For an introductory offer of $3 a month. After that, it's $4 a month or $60 for the year. Programming includes daily versions of weekly CNN shows, all new shows and original series and movies, notes Kim Lyons of The Verge. Shows will be led by newly hired high-profile journalists, she notes, such as former Fox News anchor Chris Wallace, former MSNBC host Casey Hunt, and ex-NPR star Audie Cornish. Subscribers can access CNN Plus through the regular CNN app. Ross, all that said, is there space for CNN Plus?
I don't predict this product will be that successful. I don't see a lot of people paying for it, even if it's very cheap.
How come?
I don't think there's a lot of demand for people to pay for subscription news products unless if they're really zealous about that particular news brand. You can already get a lot of news for free in an ad-supported way if you're a streamer. Mm-hmm. And most of what they're putting on there isn't news. It's just news commentary. So if you want to find someone just giving opinions about news, you can find that anywhere. You know, the actual reporting and finding new information, that's going to be limited to their TV network. And even then, that's a fraction of the airtime that they have.
Right.
And that's the same with all the cable TV news networks. They're not really news, they're news commentary.
Right. And our Insider Intelligence Director of Briefing, Jeremy Goldman, pointing out that two things. One, the post-promo cost is the same as Fox News' Fox Nation streaming subscription. I'm not sure how much of a dent that's made in the streaming world. But there's also going to be a lower cost ad-supported version of CNN Plus expected to be offered in the future, as well as a bundle as well.
You know, I could see it doing well if it was bundled in with something, or it was one of those free channels that come with your TV. Like if you have a Samsung or a Vizio, there's all these free channels CBS News is on there, Cheddar. I could see something like this taking off there. But as a subscription product, even if it's very cheap, I don't see a lot of people downloading this app. If it was rolled into HBO Max, maybe it would get some usage.
Right. Well, that was a possibility, but you noted that there was some breaking news of sorts at the start of this week. So this past Monday, some breaking news concerning HBO Max and Discovery Plus. Ross, what's going on here?
Well, so those companies, their parent companies, are merging. They're in the process of that. They've had to go through, several regulatory steps. But one of their executives just announced that once they do combine, they plan to also combine their products so that Discovery Plus and HBO Max will be one single streaming service. And that won't happen right away. There's some technological issues they'll have to work out too, aside from the logistical and legal things they'll have to sort out initially. So they may be bundled initially, but the end goal is to bring them together into like a super app. And HBO Max kind of already is that. It's a pretty expensive streaming service for $15 for the ad-free version. Already had everything HBO had, plus all the stuff that Warner owned and a little bit of licensing. Now you'll just add the Discovery on top of that, which is more, reality-focused, unscripted programming, usually cheaper to shoot, stuff that you see on like HD TV. But that news is pretty significant because there's several large media companies that have a bunch of apps because they've, collected them as they've merged different units together. And they have all these little separate entities, but they're indicating instead of having these separate things, we're going to have one big thing that we can go after users and advertisers with. So I think it's kind of interesting that they would keep CNN as a standalone app, which has much less to offer than either of those apps do individually.
Right. You predicted this back in December in a written piece that they were going to merge. The story would be better for them.
Yeah, those two particular ones I expected to combine into one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So do you have any other thoughts on what this might look like when it's all said and done? So just to give people some context, Jennifer Maas of Variety was noting Discovery Plus currently costs $5 a month with ads, $7 without ads, accounts for the bulk of Discovery streaming subscriber total. The company reporting 22 million worldwide customers at the end of last year. HBO Max and HBO last year ended with a combined 74 million global subscribers. HBO Max is priced at $10 a month with ads, and then the $15 a month ad-free service that Ross mentioned. When it's all said and done, Ross, what do you expect this to... do you have an idea of which name they'll take, a combination of names, a price point?
I think the HBO name would be stronger, so they would stick with that. Maybe they would use a combination, but if they're using just one name, it would be the HBO name. I would expect the prices to go up, not as much as they would cost to have them individually, like the way you'd have them now. It's not going to be like 15 plus 7, but maybe the prices go up by $3 or something like that. They'll probably be due for a price increase in a year anyways. So they could use this as justification for doing so. Yeah. But you'll get a lot for that money by the time they are combined. The library will be very extensive.
Yeah. Let's talk about price for a second. Colin Mann of Advanced Television notes that findings from business intelligence company Morning Consult suggest US consumers' ideal price point for streaming services is $12. That price showed no movement from a 2019 survey. Consumers' optimal price for ad-supported services held steady at $10. So to pay for a streaming service, $12, ad-supported, $10. What's interesting, Ross, though, is that the bottom of the price range for the ad, because there was a price range as well, so they averaged it out to an average price, and then there was also a price range. What would be your ideal price range for ad-free and ad-supported? And the bottom of the price range for ad-free services actually increased by $1. So the floor increased by $1, going from $10 to $16 to $11 to $16. So people willing to pay a little bit more there. And then while consumers' preferred range for ad-supported services, they also grew, but on the top end. So it was 8 to 12 was the range, and then it went from 8 to 14. Netflix's new price point is $15.50, and that's the standard plan, which Colin Mann of this article notes is 50 cents below what Americans said is the highest acceptable price for a Netflix-like streaming service. So all that considered, Ross, what are your thoughts on this so-called price ceiling?
Well, there is a price ceiling. People aren't going to want to pay more for streaming than they have paid for traditional television. And I don't think anyone's going to pay, well, very few people, I should say. You always find exceptions. I think very few people would ever pay for like a $45 streaming service at this point in time. However, I'm saying that's way above what they're saying. There is a limit at some point. But $15, a service like Netflix and even HBO Max could go above that, and you would see very little churn. If Netflix announced tomorrow that they were increasing U.S. prices to $17, people would complain a lot. At the end of the month, I bet you would see very few cancellations compared to additions.
Couldn't agree more.
So,
yeah.
There's that thing that people say they'll do, but when it comes to happening, if they're really like a service, they'll stick with it, even if it keeps bumping prices up a few dollars every year.
Yeah, you can basically take this price range from this research and say, okay, well, go a few dollars above what people say is their ideal price ceiling, because when it's all said and done, are you really going to give up the service for a couple of extra bucks, especially if it's a service with a healthy amount of content? Speaking of price, Ross, at the end of this year, Disney Plus says they're going to introduce an ad-supported version of its SVOD service alongside its non-ad flavor that runs $8 a month. This ad-supported version obviously will come in below that $8 a month for the ad-free one. How much of a boost can an ad-supported Disney Plus give its subscriber numbers?
I don't think the subscriber addition will be that significant. The more significant...
Really?
Yeah, because it's already very cheap. So
yeah,
I think the move is going to boost revenue much more than it's going to boost subscribers. They're going to be able to eke a lot more revenue per person that pays for the service. But as far as the number of people they're going to add, if you aren't wanting to pay for Disney Plus at like $8 a month without ads, I mean, are you really going to be that eager to pay for it for $4 a month with ads? Because since it's a low price range already, the discount you're going to get isn't that significant. And you're going to have to take the intrusion of advertising on top of that. So they're already adding users at such a fast pace that I don't think they really need a whole lot of help in adding people. What they need help is in getting more revenue from the people they add. Because since it's cheap, their average revenue per user is among the lowest in SVOD.
So it's not so much of a tailwind for subscribers, more of a tailwind for revenue. Streaming service Tubi estimates that about a quarter of US internet users already watch a combination of AVOD and SVOD channels. And I went and looked at our numbers, Ross, because the last couple of years there's been a flurry of SVOD services, the Netflix of the world, the Disney Pluses, HBO Max before they had the ad-free version, etc. And now AVOD we're seeing emerging. So I was wondering what the count is between SVOD viewers and AVOD viewers. So according to our figures, AVOD viewers in the US, 140 million. SVOD, a lot more, 220 million. So 140 AVOD, 220 SVOD. That means that AVOD viewers are about just over 60% the size of the SVOD audience today. By 2026, they will be 70% the size. So catching up slowly but surely.
There's also the AVOD. They're not mutually exclusive because those AVOD numbers include some SVOD because there are services with ads that you have to pay for. So a Hulu subscriber is included in both those numbers.
Good point. Yep. Finally, Ross, Insider Intelligence analyst Daniel Konstantinovich writes that, quote, Verizon is also launching Plus Play, a free platform that bundles various services, including Netflix, Disney Plus, Peloton, and more into a hub where users can keep track of, manage, and be alerted to new deals for subscription services, per The Verge, close quote. So a service where you can basically manage all of your subscriptions, it seems. Ross, will services like Plus Play from Verizon take off?
I don't think they're going to become the most dominant way that people view, but it is kind of a natural extension of what like Amazon Prime Video channels and what people have been doing with Apple TV for a while, where you use them as an aggregator. So it does allow for centralization, logins, and billing, which is convenient, but I don't expect every streaming service to opt into this, and I don't expect every ISP to offer the type of product that Verizon is. But for Verizon customers who also use Netflix and some of these other streaming services, I think it'd be pretty convenient.
Yeah. That's it for the lead. Time now for the halftime report. Ross, we'll take a takeaway from you if we can from the first half.
My takeaway is that by adding advertising, Disney isn't necessarily trying to goose subscriber numbers, but they're trying to wring more money out of the subscribers that they already have.
Perfect. Time now for In Other News, but first a quick word from our sponsor, Mountain. If you could combine the precision targeting of digital advertising with the impact of television commercials, you would have an incredibly effective ad channel. That's exactly what Mountain Performance TV does. Their connected TV software platform allows advertisers to reach their ideal audiences and drive more visits, conversions, and revenue, all from a single intuitive solution that's optimized to deliver performance. Visit mountain.com to learn more. All right, folks, today in other news, does Gen Z really watch as much TV as they do short-form video? And what to make of viewership for all the major TV events? Story 1, Gen Z watches nearly as much TV as short-form video, according to Horowitz Research. They note that 78% of US 13 to 24-year-olds said they streamed shows, movies, sports, and other TV content weekly, versus 79%, so 1 percentage point more, 79% who report streaming short clips, user-generated content, video game, live streams, and videos on social media on a weekly basis. Also, contrary to popular belief, Gen Zs do watch on traditional TVs as well as smartphones. 9 in 10 report using their smartphones every or almost every day, and nearly 7 out of 10 report the same thing about TVs. 6 in 10 say they have a TV set in their bedrooms. Ross, the idea that Gen Zers are still watching a healthy amount of TV is blank.
Indicative of how TV means different things to different people. They're not watching a whole lot of Dish Network and Comcast. Or, they're not watching a lot of broadcast television. They're watching Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and calling that TV because that's TV to them.
Yep, great point. Story 2, viewership for all major TV events, including award shows and national sports championships, is declining. But some events are holding up better than others, writes Sarah Fisher of Axios. The Super Bowl is holding its own, but award shows seem to be declining faster than most major live sports championship events, according to Nielsen data, she notes. If you add up the viewership of the Emmys, Golden Globes, Grammys, Academy Awards, Stanley Cup, NBA Finals, Olympic opening ceremony, World Series, and Super Bowl, you get the linear viewership of major TV events. And so there's a chart in this Axios article where it's a stacked bar and you can see all the viewership numbers stacked on top of each other year on year. And Ross, in 2019, it was actually the first year that collectively that linear viewership for major TV events started to fall. I mean, it went up and down a bit the previous years, but that's seasonal or based on which year, based on which year depends on how big certain events are going to be. But really it started to take a decline after 2019, interestingly. But Ross, your biggest takeaway on the viewership for all major TV events that are stacked up in this bar chart is blank.
Well, my takeaway is that live TV is usually boring. Most of those events are unwatchable. Award shows are just brutal. But what I noticed is that the things that did the best were those live sports championships, particularly the Super Bowl, but even the NBA Finals. They have a heavy component of viewership that is tied to sports betting. I don't think there's as many people betting on who's going to win an Academy Award as there is on who's going to emerge victorious from the NBA Finals. So those live events that are really sticky in their viewership tend to have a lot of bettors. The ones that have their viewership following aren't so tied to gambling.
Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting quote from Miss Fisher, which said, quote, "When it comes to tentpole events, advertisers still mostly transact off of live TV ratings, making it hard for networks to monetize social and streaming views, at least for now." Close quote. That's all we've got time for this episode. Ross, thank you very much for hanging out, sir.
Good to see you, Marcus.
Yes, sir. You too. Thank you to Victoria. She edits the show. And thanks to everyone listening. We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, for the Behind the Numbers Weekly Listen. That's an eMarketer podcast made possible by Mountain.